Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Kesubos Daf Chof Ches, the 8-minute Daf. How's everybody doing? Today we're going to learn many different musagim, and some of them are: if a couple gets divorced, who has to move out of the house? You'll be surprised. If somebody saw testimony when he was a kid, could he testify about that, whatever he saw when he's older? And we're going to learn many other halachas and musagim. Says the Mishnah, this is one of the hardest mishnayos for me personally to understand. Rabbi Zechariah ben Akatzov, the Mishnah says, was a kohen. And the non-Jews came and they conquered Yerushalayim. And he testified that he didn't leave his wife's side for a second. Nevertheless, they paskin for him that he must divorce his wife since he's a kohen. Very sad. Because a person cannot testify about himself and he can't testify about his wife. But what he did was, he built her a house in his chutzner. And they were always careful that there shouldn't be any yichud. No matter what, they always had their sons between them. The sons always came into the house before her. They left after her. There's no yichud. The Gemara tells us that this kula of building a house for your ex is only when she was a shvuya, when she's halach of a captured woman, because there's a special kula. But somebody who gets divorced from his wife, they don't allow that. They didn't allow them to build a house in the chutzner. Not only that, she can't live in his neighborhood. Tosfos says that means 3 houses away. Others argue. A small village is like a neighborhood, 3 houses. If the person is a kohen, he can't live with his ex-wife in the same mavui, even if she's single, because you have a problem of marrying your ex when you're a kohen. Now, if a couple gets divorced, she must move to another place if they both rent in the same place. But if they own the same chutzner, they have houses leading into the same chutzner, the halacha is, as it says in the pasuk, Taltala Gever, that it's harder for a man to uproot a move than for a woman. Therefore, once again, l'chayra, she has to move. If it's her chutzner, then he moves. If a woman gets divorced from nisuin, in other words, they're already married after the chuppah, not from erusin, not from engagement, or even an engaged couple, engaged in the terms of the Gemara, but gaisi, they recognize each other's hints, etc., so there's a problem, we're concerned about the two. Then if the man borrowed money from the woman and she wants her money back, she can't go directly to him because they might be over Navera, so they have to send a shliach. If the two of them show up in Bezdin, the Bezdin either, one shita says, kicks them out or puts them in cherem or gives them malchus. Says the Mishnah, one is believed to say testimony about something he saw when he was a kid. In some cases, it must be together with an adult. He could testify on his father's signature, on his Rebbe's signature, on his brother's signature. And the Gemara tells us each one has a different chiddush. He could also testify to the fact that this woman, when she got married, he remembers when he was a kid, she got married as a psula. She was wearing certain things that testified to the fact that she was a psula. She wore a hinuma. And it's not taking money away from the husband, because although a psula, her ksuba is more, it's 200, most women are psulas, and therefore he's just being megala milsa, as the Gemara calls it. He could also testify to the fact that he could eat truma de rabbanon. He saw this kid in cheder leave to go to the mikvah for truma. The Gemara tells us that we're not concerned that perhaps it's a slave, because kids in cheder are always Jewish kids. You're not supposed to teach your slave Torah. Now, if the slave taught himself Torah and he got an aliyah, the Gemara tells us that's not a raya that he's a freed slave, because sometimes slaves learn on their own. A kid is also believed, or an adult is believed to say that he saw when he was a kid that this particular person took his wheat from the granary, from the garden. And what's the chiddush? It goes according to Rabbi Yehuda, that says that you're not permitted to give anyone grain at the granary, because if you do, that's a raya, he's a kohen, and based on that testimony, we're going to let him get married to a Jew. that argues on Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi argues and he says, we don't bring anybody up from the granary, we don't let them marry based on that. He could testify that he himself gave matnes kuhuna, that he gave those matanis without an adult, and chala, and that proves that he's a kohen. And he could also testify to the fact that there was a beis hapras, which is, if there's a grave that was plowed over, and we don't know if there's small pieces of bone fragments that might have been metama, that if you touch it, you become tameh, even if it's the size of a barley. And midrabanan, they said that this field is metama. Now this kid, this adult who says when he was a kid, he saw that it was smaller, he's believed. We prove that it's the rabbanon because you can get on all four and blow your way through the field. The kid could also, this adult says, when I was a kid, I testify that the Tchum Shabbos went up until this place. And he could say that I remember my father said that this and this family, they have a problem with their yichos. But what he's not believed is to take money out of somebody else. So in other words, you can't say when I was a kid, I saw them making a hesped over here, or this used to be an easement, a pathway for somebody else. That he's not believed. But he is believed on ktsatsa. What's ktsatsa? What they would do is they would take a barrel and they would bring it to the city center, break the barrel open, and throw out all the fruit. In this case, by us in Shir, we did it with candy. And they make an announcement. They say, this and this person married shaloika halacha, don't marry into that family. And people are supposed to remember that. Somebody who became a ger, a convert, or he was meshuchrer, he was an eved that was freed, cannot testify to what happened when they were younger, not Jewish slaves. According to Rabbi Yochanan, he is believed when he says that although I wasn't Jewish, although I was a slave, I intended to be misgayer. So therefore, it is on his mind, and it's good testimony, it's a good eidos. And with that, we finish Perek Ha'isha Shenis Armela Hadrun Alach Ha'isha Shenis Armela. Have a wonderful day.